President says that he will stop supplying weapons to Israel if it launches an assault on Rafah. It comes after the US confirmed it had paused a weapon shipment to Israel over concerns Israel isn't addressing the safety of civilians. Let's get more on this with Phyllis Bennis, a fellow at the Institute for Policy Studies, where she directs the new Internationalism Project. Joins us now from Washington, D.C. Miss Bennis, good to have you with us on Al Jazeera. I'm just wondering how much pressure the US president has been under to make such a bold statement. If I can just quote him saying to CNN, civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of those bombs and other ways in which they go after population centres. And he's talking about those 2,000-pound bombs that the US has sent Israel.
This is an incredibly important move. First of all, every bomb that is held back by Washington means fewer Palestinians will be killed. We've seen 30 people killed just in the last 24 hours in and around Rafah. This notion, though, this is not enough. This notion that they will withhold more of the weapons, artillery shells and others, if Israel attacks Rafah, does not take into account that Israel is already bombing Rafah. So this is not the ceasefire that people all around the world and across the United States are demanding. So it is an important move. It does show how the movement, the demand for a ceasefire, is having an impact on the White House. They're desperate to get out from under this divide.
Yeah, I do apologise if I didn't mean to interrupt there, Miss Bennis. I'm just wondering sort of the political fallout as well, because obviously there's the social pressure that's happening across university campuses, as we've just mentioned, now spreading to Amsterdam in the Netherlands. But in the last 24 hours, we've had this statement about, as you say, these weapons not being delivered to Israel, a pause perhaps, or a cancellation. It's a drop in the ocean to what's already gone. And some might say it's just too little too late, even if it is to put pressure on an Israeli government that seems to be very single-minded about what it wants to do or what it wants to achieve.
That's absolutely right. I think that we have to be clear that the demand for a ceasefire is not being met with these actions. It is important because it's never too little. It might be one life saved with one bomb. These 2,000-pound bombs routinely kill dozens, scores, more than 100 people at a time from just that one bomb. And this one package that was being withheld apparently had more than 1,200 of those 2,000-pound bombs. So that's not nothing. But it is very far from what is required. Partly because, as you say, Israel has received an enormous amount of weapons from the United States already, and more are underway. Congress has just voted to send $26 billion worth of military aid and related support to Israel in a situation in which there is no accountability, there is no conditionality for the violations of international law under which these weapons are going to be used. The weapons that are being withheld now aren't any part of that new package of $26 billion worth. This was an old agreement from a long time ago, from several years ago, that only now they decided was a good time because Israel says they need more. And they're holding it back, which is good, it's important, and it is not enough.
Do you think there's any coincidence in the fact that the State Department were to issue a report about whether their involvement in the war on Gaza and the support for Israel that they've given breaches humanitarian law? That was supposed to have been delivered, I think it was 24 hours ago, according to our correspondent Mike Hanna, who's in Washington, to Secretary Blinken. Yeah. That has not been released. So there will be other calls for that memorandum or report, or however it's being presented, to be released to government officials or to the wider public. Do you think there is a correlation between the two?
I think there are many factors that are correlating with this, and one of them is certainly the report, which is now, as you say, 24 hours late beyond the deadline. But aside from the deadline, the problem has been that an earlier report indicated that the State Department was going to find that there were no violations in Gaza, that there may have been a violation some other time, some other place, but the extraordinary level of violations of international humanitarian law, the laws of war, that were found by the International Court of Justice to be plausibly genocide, There is no acknowledgement of that. And if that report comes out now saying we don't find that there are any violations, there will be hell to pay in the internal dynamics of the Biden administration, which is divided over this issue within the Democratic Party, as well as on the campuses across this country and around the world. It's not only the Netherlands, it's also Mexico, Germany, other countries around the world are seeing campuses erupting.
Ms. Bennis, sadly we have to leave it there. I'm sure we'll be talking to you again about this, I'm sure, in the not too distant future. Always good to have you on the programme, and thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.